The day before the college entrance examination, Shenji, the class beauty, was criticized by the homeroom teacher and incited the whole class to skip the exam to get revenge on the teacher. The class monitor, Gu Yanbai, who was also the class beauty's biggest simp, was the first to lead the response. My dad is a leader in the education bureau. If so many of us skip the exam, they'll definitely arrange a makeup exam in the end. I desperately tried to stop them and stayed up all night calling the parents of every classmate to make sure they showed up at the exam hall on time the next day. But after the college entrance examination ended, the class beauty, whose grades were very poor, jumped off a building. After the class beauty's memorial service ended, my classmates lured me to a remote reservoir and pushed me into the water to drown. They said it was all my fault for snitching. Otherwise, if everyone had accompanied the class beauty in skipping the exam, she wouldn't have died. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day before the college entrance examination, to the moment when the class beauty said she was going to skip the exam. This time, I'm not stopping them. I'd like to see what good will come of you all skipping the exam together. The moment the water rushed into my nasal passages, I could clearly hear the voices of those people on the shore. She deserves it. If it weren't for her tattling, how could Shinji have done something so foolish? What's with the fake nice guy act? So what if you're the class study rep? Let her taste what it's like to be forced into a dead end too. I struggled desperately to shout, to tell them it wasn't like that. I contacted our parents so everyone could take the college entrance exam, so your futures wouldn't be ruined by a moment of impulse. But the water gave me no chance. The bone-chilling water swallowed all my sound, swallowed my struggle, swallowed my warmth, and swallowed the last shred of consciousness. In my 18 years of life, my name is Lin Jixia. I was 18 when I died, on the 12th day after the college entrance exam ended, the very night after Shinji, the class Belle's memorial service, was held. I was tricked by my classmates to the reservoir on the outskirts of the city and pushed into the water. No one saved me. They stood on the shore watching me sink, like they were watching a dull performance. Someone even said, "That's enough, right? Let's go." And then I died from being kind-hearted, died from minding my own business, died from wanting to be a normal person. I thought that was the end of it. 18 years of life, and all I got was, "She deserves it." But the next second, I gasped sharply. Not water, it was air, dry air, thick with summer heat, mixed with the familiar smell of cheap chalk dust from the classroom. I opened my eyes. In front of me was the blinding glare of fluorescent lights. Overhead was a ceiling fan creaking as it turned, and before me was a stack of practice test papers that hadn't yet been put away, along with an open copy of 5-year college entrance exam, 3-year simulation. I was sitting by the window in the last row of the classroom. The sunlight outside was fierce, stinging my eyes until they ached. The countdown board beside the blackboard read, "1 day until the college entrance exam." My heart gave a sudden jolt. At the podium, the girl in a white dress was crying tearfully, like a pear blossom in the rain. Her eyes were red, her nose was red, and her voice was soft and trembling with a heartbreaking quiver. "I'm really so upset. Why did the homeroom teacher say that about me? She said I was a burden to the class, said I had no hope left, said that out of all the classes she'd taught, I was the worst. Shinji, Shinji, Shinji." This voice, these words, this performance, I remember. How could I possibly forget? On this day in my previous life, Shinji cried just like this and said the same thing. She said the homeroom teacher had criticized her. "Your family is in poor condition, your grades are bad, and the college entrance exam is just a run for the sake of running. You'd better think about what you'll rely on to make a living in the future." Those words were indeed unpleasant and indeed hurtful, but what the homeroom teacher said was the truth. How poor were Shinji's grades? Her total score in Chinese, math, and English was less than 200, and for science she basically relied on guessing. For her, the college entrance exam really was just a formality. The homeroom teacher was only being too blunt and hadn't considered her face, but Shinji didn't see it that way. After crying for a while, she went back to the classroom and started her performance. I feel like the teacher looks down on us students with poor grades at all. She thinks we're just trash, just here to make up the numbers. I admit I'm not good at studying, but don't underachievers have dignity too? Don't we deserve respect? I want the teacher to know that even poor students have backbone. Then she choked up and said the words that changed everything. "I want to withdraw from the exam." The classroom erupted in an uproar, and I was still immersed in the huge shock. I'm back. I returned to the day before the college entrance exam, returned to the day when everyone was still alive, still whole, still standing at the crossroads of life, except me. I had already died once. Shinji on the podium was still crying, tears falling one by one, each one landing just right. If they fell too fast, they would look fake. If they fell too slowly, they would look dry. This wasn't a natural talent, it was a skill honed over years. I know everyone is having a hard time, all desperately preparing for the college entrance exam. Shinji's voice was thick with sobs, but her eyes had already begun sweeping over the people below the stage. But I want to ask, the university we've fought so hard to get into, can it really change anything? Teachers still look down on us, and schools still divide us into different ranks. A setup, she was setting it up. Then it was time for someone to step forward. Indeed, in the aisle seat of the third row, a tall, slender boy stood up. He wore his short hair neatly combed, and his school uniform shirt was ironed without a single wrinkle. On the pocket over his chest was a golden school badge. From head to toe, he looked like the embodiment of two words, decent. Gu Yenbai, my class monitor, Shinji's #1 bootlicker. What Shinji said is right. His voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear, carrying the certainty and composure unique to a child who grew up in a leadership family. What the teacher said was indeed too much. The purpose of education should be to encourage and guide, not to strike down and deny. If the teacher can't even do the most basic respect, then why should we cooperate with her game rules? He turned around, facing all 42 students in the class, his gaze as resolute as if he were delivering a speech about the fate of the nation and the world. Rather than trying to win over a pretty girl, I propose that the whole class skip the exam. Silence, then came the whispering. Gu Yenbai placed both hands on the desk and leaned slightly forward, continuing in a tone of, I'm only doing this for your own good. Everyone, don't worry about the consequences. My dad works at the Municipal Education Bureau. In a situation like this, where the whole class skips the exam, the higher-ups will definitely take it seriously. When a crowd is involved, no one will be punished. With so many people missing the exam, they can't possibly ignore it, and in the end they'll definitely arrange a make-up exam. He spoke with such certainty, so confidently and with such righteous conviction, as if his dad could really turn his hand to summon the clouds and flip it back to bring down the rain, as if a national exam like the college entrance exam would really be rescheduled just because a few dozen students refused to take it. And besides, Gu Yenbai glanced at Shinji, his eyes full of nauseating concern and indulgence. Shinji is being bullied by the teacher like this, and we can't just stand by and do nothing. This time, skipping the exam isn't just for ourselves, but also to seek justice for her. Shinji lowered her head at just the right moment, her shoulders trembling slightly, the tears at the corners of her eyes glistening in the sunlight like shattered crystal. Yenbai, please don't do this for my sake, it's not for you. Gu Yenbai's voice was so gentle it could almost drip water. It's for justice. I watched all this coldly from the last row. Exactly the same. It was exactly the same as in my previous life. In my previous life, after Gu Yenbai said those words, I stood up. I was the study committee member, and I felt it was my duty to urge everyone to stay calm. I told them how important the college entrance exam was, warned them about the risks of skipping it, said the matter wasn't as simple as they thought, and said that Gu Yenbai's father couldn't possibly really get the Education Bureau to go along with it. Even if he was a deputy director, it still wouldn't work. I pleaded earnestly, spoke with heartfelt sincerity, and took every bit of reasoning I knew and broke it down and fed it to them piece by piece. So, what happened? Shinji looked at me pitifully and said, Jixia, you're the study committee member and your grades are good, so of course you think the college entrance exam is important, but for us underachievers, exams were always just a formality. In one sentence, she set me against them. Gu Yenbai added insult to injury for her. Lin Jixia, don't stand there and talk without feeling the pain. You're a top student, of course you want the college entrance exam to go on as usual. We low achievers are here to keep the bottom for you so you can get a high score. The whole class burst out laughing. No one stood up for me. There wasn't a single one. And then, later, I really did contact their parents, calling them one by one. I stayed up late going through my address book, finding each person's home address and contact information, and begging them to make sure they sent their children to the exam site on the day of the college entrance examination. I did everything I could do. They all took the college entrance examination. Everyone got pretty decent scores. Of course they weren't too good, but compared with a 0, at least they had a score. The parents were very satisfied and lined up in the parents group chat to thank me. Then Shinji jumped off a building. On the day the results came out, she checked her score. Just over 300, not enough for a first-tier university, not enough for a second-tier university, not even enough for a decent vocational college. She jumped from the window on the 6th floor of her own home. She was dead. At her memorial service, everyone was crying. Gu Yanbai cried the hardest, kneeling in front of the funeral altar and saying things like, "It's all my fault, I couldn't skip the exam with you, so I left you to bear all of this alone." In the crowd, I looked at Shinji's framed portrait, unable to put into words what I was feeling. I saved them, I saved everyone, except Shinji, but they didn't think so. On the night the memorial service ended, they called me to the reservoir on the outskirts of the city. "It's all your fault for tattling, otherwise, if everyone had skipped the exam together with the class beauty, she wouldn't have killed herself after feeling betrayed by everyone. Why did you have to meddle? You ruined our promise with the class beauty." Then they pushed me into the water. I looked at their blurred faces, listening to their accusations, all talking over one another. That was the first time I learned that the outcome of saving someone could be death. It turned out that at the end of a group's stupidity and cowardice, a scapegoat was needed to pay the price. It turned out that so-called camaraderie among classmates was nothing more than a helping hand when everyone rushed to kick someone down. "Now, I'm back." Shinji's tears were still falling, her voice still trembling, and the performance was still going on. Gu Yanbai's hands were still planted on the desk as he passionately urged everyone to give up the exam. The students around them were whispering to one another. Some looked hesitant, some were itching to try, and some had already started signing the exam withdrawal commitment letter, handed over by Gu Yanbai. Everything is going according to the script, only this time, there are no lines for Lin Jixia in the script anymore. I leaned back in my chair, the corners of my mouth lifting slightly. "Make-up exam opportunity, impossible. The college entrance examination will not be repeated for anyone. The law does not punish the majority." That's something told to children. Collectively abandoning the college entrance exam before it begins is so egregious in nature and so serious in its impact that no official would dare to cover for you. So this time, you want to skip the exam. Suit yourselves. You think this is about standing up for Shinji? Go ahead. You believe Gu Yanbai's promise? Sure. Believe it, I can't be bothered anymore. In my previous life, I tried to interfere once, and even lost my life. This time, I'll only take care of myself. On the podium, Shinji's gaze swept over the last row. Seeing me sitting quietly there, she paused slightly. She probably thought I would stand up and speak. At this point in my previous life, I had already been arguing with Gu Yanbai, but this time, I simply sat there quietly and smiled at her. Shinji blinked. Tears were still clinging to her lashes, but the corner of her mouth moved almost imperceptibly. She was smug. She thought she had succeeded, thought that even I, the class study monitor, had tacitly approved her. Uprising, naive. I lowered my head and opened the workbook of wrong answers in front of me. It was densely filled with revision notes for the final stage. There is 1 day left until the college entrance exam, and I have memories of the college entrance exam. I still remember what questions were on it, including the last big math problem. I need to hurry and practice my problem-solving steps. In my previous life, I performed normally and got into a pretty good 985 university, but this year, Tsinghua, here I come. The class bell rang. Shinji's tears miraculously stopped. Her eyes were still red, her nose still pink. She looked like a gardenia beaten by rain, cool and delicate, so pitiful it stirred one's heart. A few girls gathered around to comfort her, leaning on someone's shoulder. She was still speaking through tears. "I'm fine, really, thank you, everyone." But her eyes were no longer in a sad state. She was counting heads. Her gaze swept from left to right across every corner of the classroom, quickly and precisely calculating how many people had signed the pledge to forego the exam. 13. It's still far from enough. What she wanted was for the entire class to forego the exam, for all 42 of them to accompany her without missing a single one. This wasn't for some so-called dignity, nor was it to pursue so-called justice. She just didn't want to be embarrassed all by herself. If the whole class skipped the exam, then scoring over 300 wouldn't be a problem for her. After all, if everyone got 0, hers would still be higher than 0. If the whole class gave up the exam, then the homeroom teacher saying she had no hope would become a joke. If the whole class didn't take it, who were you expecting to have hope? If the whole class gave up the exam, then she would no longer be a poor student crushed by teachers, but a hero who led her classmates in resisting injustice. What a perfect script. Shinji's gaze swept across the classroom before finally landing on me. I was quietly reviewing at the back row, and the fluorescent light above stretched my shadow long. She was the only one who noticed my abnormal behavior, because I shouldn't have been this quiet. At this point in my previous life, I would already have been up on the podium, taking on the whole class in a war of words. I analyzed the pros and cons for them, laid out the facts and reasoned with them, and cited references and classics to prove just how absurd it was to skip the exam. Back then, I thought I was the clear-headed one. Now that I think about it, I was just the one who didn't know when to stop. Shinji pushed the girl beside her aside and walked toward me. The way she walked was beautiful, her back straight and her steps light, the hem of her skirt swaying gently, like an egret skimming over the surface of the water. It was a carefully designed gait, when, and in front of what kind of person, she should present what kind of posture. All of it had been meticulously planned. Now she walked toward me, using the gentle and considerate good classmate mode. Jixia, she stopped beside my desk, her voice soft, a little hoarse. Why haven't you signed it? I put down the pen in my hand and looked up at her. There were still tear stains clinging to her eyelashes, but her eyes were perfectly dry, with not the slightest trace of moisture. This person's tear ducts must have an on-off switch. I don't want to forfeit the exam, I said. Shinji's expression froze for a moment, but only for a moment. She quickly put on an expression of, I understand you, and her voice grew even softer. Jixia, you're the class study rep. And your grades are so good, you're the teacher's favorite, don't you think what she said about me was too much? Standard move, first close the distance, then use, the teacher likes you best, to imply that I'm on the opposite side from her. In plain English, that means, you're the teacher's pet, so of course you won't stand with us underachievers. What she said was indeed unpleasant, I admitted. A flicker of light flashed in Shinji's eyes, but then I went on. But are you sure you want to give up the college entrance exam because of this? I didn't give up, Yen Bai said there would be a make-up exam. Gu Yenbai said his dad can handle it. You believe that? Yenbai would never lie to me. Shinji's voice grew firm, so firm it sounded a little forced. She was emphasizing the trust between her and Gu Yenbai, so the people around would think they were bound together. If even the class monitor was on her side, what was there for anyone else to hesitate about? Then why don't you just go take it? I picked up my pen again, my tone calm. If you think there'll be a make-up exam, then go take it once. If you don't do well, wait for the make-up opportunity. Shinji froze for a moment. She clearly hadn't expected me to approach it from this angle. In her script, I was supposed to either support it or oppose it. There was no third option. But, she bit her lip and squeezed out another tear. If everyone goes to take the exam, then what's the point of our decision to skip it? We're protesting the homeroom teacher's unfair treatment, not really saying we don't want to take the exam. By the end, her voice had once again taken on a crying tone, but her eyes were cold. She was scrutinizing me, judging which side I was really on. I am very clear about this in my heart. She didn't care at all about any protest or injustice. She just wanted an excuse not to take the exam, but she didn't want to be a deserter alone, so she had to drag everyone else down with her. Jixia, she suddenly lowered her voice, with a sincerity that only I could hear. You're the class study representative. If you don't take the exam too, everyone will be more united. Just take it as helping me out. It had come. Moral coercion. You're the class study representative equals you have a duty to go along with me. Just take it as helping me out equals if you don't help me, you're not giving me face. This tactic is way too old. What good does it do me if I don't take the exam? I looked at her, my gaze as calm as a dead still pond. A visible crack finally appeared in Shinji's expression. She hadn't expected me to ask such a direct question and, for a moment, didn't know how to answer. If I take it, I can get into a top university, I went on. If I don't, at most I'll be waiting for a make-up exam that may never even happen. Shinji, help me figure it out. Why would I make that choice? Shinji's lips moved, and the tears in her eyes stopped flowing. Her reaction system started to stall. This line wasn't in the script. Jixia, why have you become so utilitarian? Her voice sounded a little weak. I've always been this utilitarian. I smiled. What? You think I got my grades by talent, thanks to natural ability? The classmates around us began to notice the commotion. Some stopped writing, while others leaned in to listen. Shinji felt her authority being challenged. Her expression changed several times before settling into one of utter heartbreak. I see. She lowered her head, her voice soft and carrying a wounded fragility. You don't want to stand with people like us, do you? You think we're not worthy of standing beside you, don't you? She turned and took 2 steps away, then stopped, her shoulders trembling slightly. It's okay, I understand. After saying that, she lowered her head and walked out of the classroom. Whispers rose behind her. Why is Lin Jixia like that? The class beauty already begged her like that, so what if she's the study committee member? Isn't it just because her grades are good? I turned a deaf ear to it and kept flipping through my wrong answer notebook. The real drama has only just begun. After the classroom had been quiet for a few minutes, Gu Yanbai's phone vibrated. He glanced down at it and his expression immediately turned ugly. He sprang to his feet and strode over to me. Lin Jixia, what did you say to Shinji? His voice was kept very low, but every word carried anger. Do you know she cried and ran out? I know. I watched helplessly as she ran out, and I knew she wouldn't run far. The flower bed behind the teaching building, right opposite the classroom window, was the perfect spot. Once she crouched down there, everyone could see the hem of her skirt lifted by the wind and her slightly trembling shoulders. Perfect composition, perfect lighting, a perfect crying scene. I don't know why she's crying, I said leisurely. I just said I don't want to skip the exam. If you don't want to skip the exam, then don't skip it. Why did you have to hurt her feelings? How did I hurt her feelings? You, Gu Yanbai opened his mouth, probably thinking of the contents of the private message Shinji had just sent, but then felt it wasn't appropriate to say it out loud. He changed his words and said, what do you mean by, just go take the exam? Are you making fun of her for having poor grades? I was just saying to attend the exam normally. You knew very well that her grades were poor, and you still said that. Aren't you hitting her where it hurts? Gu Yanbai's voice grew louder and louder, and the classmates around them all turned to look. You're a top student, so of course you think exams don't matter. Have you ever considered the feelings of us people with poor grades? Here we go again. The feelings of people with poor grades had become a universal shield. As long as you brought it up, no one could refute it, question it, or raise any objection. Otherwise, you'd be looking down on poor students, and you'd be guilty of the arrogance of elitism. I suffered quite a bit from this kind of loss in my previous life. In this life, I'm not falling for that. Class monitor, I said, standing up and meeting his gaze. You say your dad can get us a makeup exam opportunity. Are you sure that's a done deal? Of course. Is there a document, an official red letter document, the kind issued by the Education Bureau? Gu Yanbai's expression stiffened. A verbal promise. My dad said it himself. Your dad is the deputy director of the Education Bureau. Can he decide on makeup exams for the college entrance exam? I laughed. Gu Yanbai, if your dad were really that impressive, would you still be placing at the bottom of the grade every time? Several stifled laughs rang out in the classroom. Gu Yanbai's face turned the color of pig liver. His grades really weren't that good, below average, only middling at best, and he relied entirely on his father's connections to save face. You've got guts, he said through gritted teeth. You'll regret this, perhaps. Gu Yanbai turned and left, heading to the back of the teaching building to pick up his class beauty. Those who had just signed the exam forfeiture commitment began quietly gathering together, lowering their voices to discuss something. I vaguely heard, is Lin Jixia trying to report us? Should we kick her out of the group? If she dares to ruin things, we'll just, I chuckled inwardly, kick me out of the group. In my last life, you already kicked me out of the group. It was on the very night I decided to contact my parents. In that large group chat of over 300 people, you discussed how to get revenge on me and how to teach me a lesson. In the end, the chosen method was to push me into the water. I closed my wrong answers notebook and looked at the sky outside the window. The sun was setting in the west, and the horizon was ablaze with red. Tomorrow was the college entrance examination. This time, I wouldn't be a fool anymore. You want to court death, and I'll oblige you. When school was over, Shinji had, as expected, recovered. She walked out of the school gate surrounded by Gu Yanbai and several other girls, wearing the relaxed look of someone who had survived a disaster. There were still faint red marks at the corners of her eyes, making her whole person look like a flower that had just weathered a storm, fragile, delicate, yet stubbornly unbowed. When she reached the school gate, she suddenly stopped, turned back, and looked at me. In that glance, there was pity, condescending sympathy, and a barely perceptible sneer. Is Jixia going home alone? She asked me. Be careful on the way home. Her voice was very gentle. Good luck at the exam hall tomorrow. She said it offhandedly, but I could hear the meaning behind it. Good luck at the exam tomorrow. You'll be going alone. None of us are going. You'll be the only one in the whole class taking the college entrance exam. She thought this kind of loneliness of the whole world standing against me would scare me. No, she wasn't thinking that. She was hoping it would. She wanted me to feel afraid, to feel isolated, to feel that I had made the wrong choice, and then obediently join their group of students boycotting the exam. Unfortunately, I'm not falling for that. See you tomorrow, I said. She froze for a moment, probably not expecting me to answer so bluntly. I turned and walked away. After walking more than 10 meters, I heard a burst of laughter behind me. That was Shinji's laugh, clear and crisp, like silver bells, as if it were some sort of triumphant declaration. She was telling everyone, "Look, I won." I kept walking forward expressionlessly. On this day in my previous life, at 11 o'clock at night, I sent Shinji a long message, explaining the importance of the college entrance exam, urging her not to act on impulse, and saying that I could tutor her and make sure she could score dozens more points on the last day. She didn't reply. Later, I found out that she had taken a screenshot of the message I sent and posted it in the class group chat, with the caption, "Lin Jixia is really such a saint." The group chat was filled with ha-ha-has. Simps end up with everything they deserve. No, with nothing at all. Does the class beauty need your help? She has the class monitor. Does Lin Jixia really think she can save the world? These comments were forwarded to me later. Shinji sent them. She kept pretending to be my confidant right in front of me, while behind my back she trampled my kindness into the mud. And she still had the nerve to say that. I took out my phone and opened the class group chat. The messages were already at 99 plus. Scrolling up, it was all discussion about skipping the exam. Gu Yenbai posted a long paragraph, several hundred words, analyzing the political significance and social impact of a collective exam boycott. The wording was so professional and the logic so airtight that it was obvious it had been copy-pasted, probably written by some secretary at his father's workplace. In summary, a collective exam boycott does leave some room for maneuver in policy terms. According to the relevant regulations of the Ministry of Education, candidates who are unable to take the college entrance examination due to force majeure may, at the discretion of local authorities, be arranged to retake it, although a collective exam boycott does not fall under force majeure in the strict sense. Given the large number of people involved and the huge social impact, the education authorities will certainly take flexible measures to respond. In that one passage, words like may, at the discretion, and certainly kept appearing again and again, giving everyone hope while avoiding any substantive commitment. Gu Yenbai used this kind of talk to fool a group of 18-year-old students, and that was enough. The replies in the group were all the same. Class monitor is awesome. Class monitor is amazing. With the class monitor here, what do we have to be afraid of? Someone also mentioned me. What if Lin Jixia doesn't join us in skipping the exam? If she goes to take the exam alone, will it affect us? Gu Yenbai replied, no, she takes hers, and we do ours. Everyone has their own choice, and I respect hers. That was what he said, but the last sentence came with a smirking emoji. Translation, just you wait and see, she'll regret it. Shinji also chimed in. Jixia has always been very strong-minded. We should respect her decision, no matter what she chooses. She'll always be my best friend. Best friend, when you led the mockery of me in my previous life, why didn't you think of me as your best friend? I scrolled to the end of the chat log and saw Shinji send a crying emoji, saying, I'm so moved. It's so good to have you all. Actually, I'm really upset, but thinking that everyone is here makes me feel like everything is worth it. Someone replied, class beauty, don't be sad. Tomorrow we'll all skip the exam together and piss off the homeroom teacher. Someone replied, yeah, the more the homeroom teacher looks down on us, the more we should stick together. Someone else tagged Gu Yenbai, class monitor, when exactly is the makeup exam? Gu Yenbai replied, about a week after the college entrance exam ends. My dad will arrange it. About a week after the college entrance exam ended, that was around the time Shinji jumped off the building. I didn't know why she jumped. Was it really because she felt deceived, or was her performance so poor that she didn't know how to face the future? I don't want to know. I turned off my phone screen. When I got home, my mom was busy in the kitchen. She had simmered a pot of chicken soup, soaked some snow fungus, and cut up a plate of fruit. Seeing me come in, she hurriedly brought out a steaming bowl of soup from the kitchen. Her hands were rough from years of housework, her knuckles thick, and hangnails clinging to the edges of her nails. As she handed me the soup, I noticed a new burn mark in the palm of her hand. Mom has been simmering this all afternoon. Have more, so you'll have the energy for tomorrow's exam. She smiled and pushed the bowl of soup toward me. Thank you, Mom. I lowered my head and drank the soup, my throat tightening a little. In my previous life, my mom was the same. Every night, she would make soup for me, peel fruit for me, and place a warm glass of milk by my bedside. She said she didn't expect me to score too well, just to do my best. I ranked in the top 200 in the province. She cried tears of joy, hugging my report card and crying all night, saying, my daughter is really something, and then, later, I died. My mom cried so hard by the reservoir that she fainted 3 times. I don't know what happened to her after that, because I was dead. The dead don't know about the living, but I know it must have hurt a lot. It must have hurt so much. I finished the soup, put down the bowl, and looked at my mom's busy back. Mom, can you take me to the exam venue tomorrow? My mom turned around and froze for a moment. She rarely offered to take me herself, because our family only had one old electric bike, and riding it to the exam venue would make people laugh at us. But this time, I spoke up. Okay, Mom will take you there. She smiled, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes bunching together like a blooming chrysanthemum. Mom, I'll do really well on the exam. Mom knows. Very good, Mom believes you. I buried my face in the bowl and swallowed my tears along with the soup. June 7, sunny. The sunlight was so good. It felt like the beginning of everything. I sat on the back seat of my mom's electric scooter, carrying a school bag stuffed with stationery, weaving all the way through the congested streets. The entrance to the exam venue was packed shoulder to shoulder, with even more parents coming to accompany their children than students taking the exam. Some held sunflowers, some wore red kipayos, and some laid out blankets in the shade of the roadside trees, set up little foldable stools, and prepared to wait there for 2.5 hours. My mom found an empty spot and parked the electric bike, then took a bag out of the trunk. Mom packed you some chocolate and water. Don't drink too much water during the exam, so you won't need to go to the bathroom. Put the chocolate in your pocket and eat one piece after each subject. Got it, Mom, don't be nervous. Mom will be waiting for you outside. I'm not nervous. I really wasn't nervous. What am I nervous about? I remember the Gaokao exam questions crystal clear, even the essay topic. I'm not nervous at all. The only thing I was worried about was, please don't let me run into those idiots again. Yet fate seemed to love playing jokes on me. Just as I walked to the entrance of the exam venue, I saw a group of people wearing white t-shirts. The t-shirts were printed with red words: reject discrimination against poor students, protest unfair education, give me back my dignity. Shinji stood at the very front. Today, she wasn't wearing her school uniform. Instead, she wore an oversized white t-shirt with a denim miniskirt. Her hair was let down and draped over her shoulders, the ends slightly curled. She looked as fresh and breezy as a passing wind. A small white flower was pinned to her chest, her eyes were slightly red, and her lips were pressed together lightly. The whole of her was wrapped in an almost sacred air of grief. Standing beside her was Gu Yenbai, also in a white t-shirt. Along with 20-odd classmates from the same class, at the entrance to the exam hall, they had hung a banner with red characters on a white background that read, "Not a single one can be left behind." Passers-by kept turning their heads to look. Some stopped to take photos, while others whispered among themselves. There was a reporter. There really was a reporter. A man carrying a video camera and a woman holding a microphone stood in front of Shinji. A local TV station logo was affixed to the microphone. Shinji was speaking to the camera, her voice neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for everyone around her to hear. Her lips trembled slightly, tears welling in her eyes, but she held them back and didn't let them fall. This kind of holding back tears was even more moving than actually crying. I just want more people to pay attention to the issue of educational fairness. Her voice was soft yet firm, each word seeming to be squeezed out from the depths of her heart. Are students with poor grades not worthy of respect? Don't we deserve to have dreams? The reporter's eyes lit up. This kind of news is a traffic magnet. So you've decided to collectively skip the exam? Yes, Gu Yenbai took over, his voice steady and forceful. All 42 students in our class, all 42 of us, will give up this college entrance exam. 42, she counted me in as well. 42 students skipped the exam. The reporter's voice rose an octave. Yes, Gu Yenbai nodded, his expression stern and solemn. We want to express our protest against an unfair education system in the most thorough way possible. More and more people gathered around. Some took out their phones to record videos, some discussed the matter, and some shook their heads and sighed. Shinji's gaze passed through the crowd and found me with perfect accuracy. She looked at me, a complicated expression flashing through her eyes. Was it sarcasm, pity, or some kind of smugness that said, "See, I won"? She gave me a slight smile, her lips moving as she silently mouthed a sentence. "You'll regret this." I read that sentence, just like yesterday. Then her gaze moved away from me, returned to the camera, and she continued her performance. I walked past her. Did she notice me too? No. She knew all along where I was sitting. She just chose to ignore me. "Shinji." I stopped and called her name. She turned around, still wearing that compassionate, pitying expression on her face. What's wrong, Ji Xia, wish you success, I said. She froze for a moment, then a gentle smile appeared on her face. Thank you, Ji Xia, I also wish you good luck on your exam. So hypocritical it was nauseating. However, I said with a smile, looking at the white flower on her chest. What day is it exactly today? You're all dressed like this. Someone who doesn't know better might think you're holding some kind of memorial service or something. Shenji's smile stiffened. The several classmates around us wearing white shirts exchanged glances. Gu Yanbai's expression darkened. Lin Jixia, watch your mouth. I ignored him. I turned and walked into the exam hall. Behind me, some people were cursing me, some were laughing, and some were whispering. I didn't look back. The exam hall was very quiet. The proctor was handing out answer sheets. Sunlight shone in through the window, casting a bright patch of light on the desk. I sat in my seat and laid out my pencil, eraser, and admission ticket one by one. Take a deep breath. The bell rang. I opened the answer sheet. Name, admission ticket number, seat number. Then comes the first question. For the first question, choose B. For the second question, choose C. Question 3, choose A. Every word I wrote was as certain as if the answer were right there in front of me, because the answer really was right in front of me. In my memory, I had already gone over it twice in my head. I knew every option, every fill-in-the-blank, every reading comprehension passage, and every scoring point in every question of the comprehensive humanities section by heart. Chinese, unsurprisingly, math, like a fish in water, science, with ease, English, effortlessly. Over the 2 days of the college entrance exam, I was the first person to walk out of the exam room in every session, not because I wanted to show off, but because I had finished, checked my answers 3 times, and there was really nothing left to change. The moment I handed in each paper, I had an unshakable feeling. Tsinghua secured. 2 days later, the final subject, English, was handed in. I walked out of the exam hall and saw the school gate packed with a dark mass of people. There was no Shenji among them, no white t-shirts, no banner. Everything was as if nothing had happened, but I knew that things had already started to ferment. On my phone, the class group chat had already blown up, not because of how well they did on the exam. They hadn't even taken it. It was because the news about the makeup exam never came. At first, Gu Yanbai was still calming everyone down in the group chat. Don't worry, my dad said there'll be a meeting to discuss it after the exam, and we'll have results as soon as next week. Someone started to question it, but it seems like there have been cases of an entire class missing an exam in other provinces too, and in the end there still wasn't any makeup exam. Gu Yanbai replied quickly, that's someone else. Our situation is different. My dad works at the Education Bureau, so we have insider information. Really, when have I ever lied to you? The group chat fell silent for a while, then was flooded again with, long live the class monitor, trust the class monitor and gain eternal life. Waiting for the makeup exam, I flipped through it and couldn't help laughing. Believe the class monitor and attain eternal life. What you believe in is the class monitor's father, and the class monitor's father is probably already being questioned by the organization right now. I gave my mom a call. Done with the exam? Done. How's it going? Very good. My mom laughed on the other end of the phone, her laughter tinged with tears. Then Mom will come pick you up, and I'll make you braised pork ribs tonight. Okay. I hung up the phone and stood waiting under the shade of a tree. The sun was scorching, and the cicadas' chirping was deafening. The college entrance exams are over. The battle that belonged to me was over. The fight belonging to another group of people had only just begun. The days after the college entrance exam were as calm as an artificial lake. Every day, I stayed home reading, sleeping, and helping my mom with the housework. Occasionally, I went out for a walk, living the life of a retired senior cadre. Meanwhile, in the class group chat, a different drama played out every single day. The first day after skipping the exam, the main theme in the group chat was celebration. Damn, it's finally over. No, wait, it's finally not over. Ha 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 ha. I heard this year's college entrance exam was insanely hard. Luckily we didn't take it. Exactly. I heard the last big math problem went beyond the syllabus. Good thing we're waiting for the makeup exam and get a free shot at easier questions. Class monitor, will the makeup exam questions be easier? Gu Yanbai replied, probably. Makeup exams are usually backup papers, so the difficulty should be a bit lower. Where did he get that confidence from? Backup paper with lower difficulty. The backup exam paper is only used when the original paper suffers a major incident such as a leak. Its difficulty is generally never lower than the original, and many times it is deliberately made even harder in order to balance the difficulty. this guy is really good at talking nonsense, but no one questioned him, because in their minds, Gu Yanbai was the son of the deputy director of the Education Bureau, so whatever he said had to be right. This underlying logic of being right about everything just because you have a good father sustained all of their lucky assumptions. From the second day to the fifth day after skipping the exam, the main theme became waiting. When will the makeup exam notice be issued? Class rep, has your dad heard any latest news? I check the Education Bureau's website every day, and there's still nothing about a makeup exam. Gu Yanbai's reply began to sound official. Everyone, please stay calm. Following the proper procedure takes time. For something this big, there's no way an outcome could come out in just a few days. Someone started to feel vaguely uneasy. There really won't be a makeup exam, will there? Gu Yanbai immediately replied, impossible. My dad said the higher-ups have already taken notice of this matter. He made the words, the higher-ups, bold and red, probably trying to create the impression that we're already in dialogue with the top officials, but in fact, what the real people, above, paid attention to was this matter, and what they were focusing on was a group of high school students incited to collectively skip the exam, and was someone behind it manipulating things, with the son of the deputy director of the Education Bureau involved. Was there any quid pro quo? Should this matter be reported citywide as a warning example? That's all later. On the sixth day after skipping the exam, the college entrance exam results were released, not theirs. All the candidates in the province. Scores were originally scheduled to be released on June 23, but before the results came out at the end of June, news about the group decision to skip the exam began to spread online. A media outlet released a video of Shinji being interviewed at the entrance to the exam venue, with the headline, 42 students in one class at a certain middle school collectively skipped the exam to protest educational injustice. The accompanying image showed Shinji wearing a white t-shirt, standing in front of a banner with tears in her eyes. The video went viral. The comments were sharply divided. Some people praised them for having backbone. Kids these days are amazing, brave enough to say no to unfairness. Others called them idiots. College is your own future, you're using your own prospects to protest. Are you brain dead? Shinji reposted this news in the group chat with the caption, thank you all for your support, our voices have finally been heard. Her tone was light and airy, carrying a sense of satisfaction, as if everything had finally settled into place. She really thought this matter would have a good outcome. She really thought that once the media paid attention and the public opinion heated up, the Education Bureau would back down. What she didn't know was that while she was still sharing the news and feeling smug about it, Gu Yanbai's father had already been suspended. The news was something Gu Yanbai himself said in the group chat. My dad has been suspended and is under investigation, he said. Those words were like a bomb thrown into the water. The group chat instantly exploded. What happened? Why didn't you say your dad could handle it? Class monitor, your dad has been suspended. What about the makeup exam? So everything you said before was fake. A barrage of questions came crashing down on Gu Yanbai, and he couldn't hold them off. He only said, I'm not sure what's going on either, I'll ask around and then tell you. Then he fell silent. The people in the group chat started to panic. Damn, did this get out of hand? Could it really be that there's no makeup exam? That can't be right. So many people missed the exam. There's no way the Education Bureau would just ignore it. Or, should we go sit in front of the Education Bureau? Damn it, are you crazy? If there's no makeup exam, my life is ruined. At this point, human nature began to reveal its true colors. The people who had earlier vowed to fight for justice were now all talking about my life, my future, and my prospects. No one mentioned Shinji, no one mentioned resisting injustice, no one mentioned anything like the dignity of a poor student. Everyone's focus had turned into this. Could I still get into college? Shinji sent a message in the group. Everyone, don't panic, Yanbai will think of a way. After a long silence, someone replied, his dad has already been suspended, what way can he still think of? Shinji did not reply to that. I guessed her expression must have been very interesting. The goddess of justice persona she had painstakingly built up over so long was shattered by reality in that instant, because she knew better than anyone. There was no makeup exam at all. From the very beginning, it had all been bragging from Gu Yanbai, and she packaged Gu Yanbai's bragging as a righteous promise, using it to pressure the whole class into running away with her. Now, the bubble had burst, but her performance was not over yet. The next day, Shinji sent a very, very long message in the group chat. I'm sorry, everyone, it's all my fault. I dragged you down. I was the one who said I wanted to skip the exam first. Yenbai only said his dad could handle it to help me, he meant no harm, he just wanted to help me. I'm really heartbroken, just thinking that my impulsiveness caused everyone to suffer these consequences makes me feel so selfish. If time could turn back, I would never have said that. I would definitely go take the exam honestly, even if I scored 0, it would be better than dragging everyone down. Then came a string of crying emojis. This whole routine of, it's all my fault, I'm to blame, I'm the sinner, translates to, I've already apologized, so you can't blame me. If you do blame me, then it means you lack compassion. A familiar formula, a familiar taste, but this time, the effect was weakened. Someone replied to her, class beauty, don't be too hard on yourself, things have already come to this, so let's figure out a way. Someone else said, actually, it can't all be blamed on you, the class monitor is also responsible. And another person said something rather hurtful, to be honest, if your grades were a bit better, you wouldn't have come up with this idea. Shinji didn't fire back, she could only play the wrong victim, not the shrew. Her fighting power was only good enough to deal with people willing to fall for her act. When faced with words that truly hit her sore spot, she would only pretend to be dead. Then the day the scores were released arrived, June 23, 12:00 a.m. I sat in front of the computer and logged into the Provincial Education Examinations Institute website, account, password, verification code. The page refreshed, top 10 in the province, Tsinghua. It's settled. I took a screenshot of the score page and sent it to my mom. My mom replied instantly, baby, you're amazing. Then came a string of voice messages, so choked with sobs that she could barely speak. I didn't open them, because I was afraid I would cry too. I carefully reviewed my report card and confirmed that the scores in each subject were about the same as I had expected. Then I closed the page, turned off the light, and lay down on the bed. In the darkness, I could hear my own heartbeat. Plop, plop, plop. Had finally done it. In my previous life, I had also gotten very good scores, but not this good. In this life, because of the memories from my past life, I set a higher goal and achieved it. Tsinghua, the best university in the country. I lay in the darkness, the corners of my mouth slowly curling up. Meanwhile, a tragic and brutal spectacle was unfolding in the class group chat. As soon as the news of the score release came out, the group chat exploded more violently than at any time before. The scores are out, the scores are out, have you checked? Check what? We didn't even take the exam. No, I mean, this year's cutoff score is out, and it's so high. Then even if we take the makeup exam, can we score that high? The makeup exam. Will there really still be a makeup exam? Where's the class monitor? Class monitor, say something. Gu Yenji did not make a sound. Shinji also did not make a sound. The others began frantically at ing them, at Gu Yenji, class monitor, what on earth is going on? At Shinji, class flower, didn't you say the class monitor would take responsibility? My parents have already started asking me. I said I'd wait for a makeup exam, but they said they've never heard of there being makeup exams for the college entrance exam. I checked, there hasn't been a single precedent for a college entrance exam makeup test nationwide in the past 10 years. It's over, it's over, it's over, we've been tricked. Someone posted a link in the group chat. It was a news report. The headline read, dozens of students at a certain middle school collectively skipped the exam, and the Education Bureau responded, no makeup exam arrangements. I clicked on it and took a look. The report said that a relevant person in charge at the Provincial Education Examination Institute responded that the college entrance exam is a nationally unified exam, and there is no possibility of a makeup exam at the local level. For individual candidates who were unable to take the exam due to special circumstances, there is currently no relevant policy supporting a makeup exam. The report also mentioned that, in response to this mass no-show for the exam, the education authorities have already launched an investigation, and those involved in inciting students to skip the exam will be dealt with in accordance with the law and regulations. Inciting students to skip the exam, dealt with in accordance with the law and regulations. This has already been stated very clearly. Shinji and Gu Yenbai may not have merely failed to get in, that's simply, someone in the group forwarded this article, with the caption, so there was no makeup exam at all, we were lied to. At Gu Yenbai, explain yourself, didn't your dad say he could handle it? At Gu Yenbai, why don't you come out and say something? Gu Yenbai finally showed up. His reply was only one sentence, my dad is under investigation, I don't know anything. Then he left the group. Not an explanation, not an apology, not a way to make amends. It was leaving the group chat. They ran off. The group chat fell silent in an instant. Then someone started crying, fuck your mother. Gu Yenbai. You fucking tricked us onto this sinking ship and then ran off on your own, so from start to finish, we were the ones dreaming. There was never any makeup exam at all. My dad said he's going to beat me to death. What do? It's over, completely over, my life is ruined. Then came Shinji's message, everyone, calm down a little, things haven't reached the final step yet. Someone interrupted her, shut up, if you hadn't been sobbing and talking about skipping the exam, would we have ended up in this situation? Shinji replied instantly. I didn't force anyone, everyone signed the commitment letter voluntarily. Bullshit, what did you say back then? You said you wanted the teacher to know that poor students have backbone, you said that as long as the whole class stayed together, there was nothing to fear, and you even said you understood how people who didn't do well on the exam felt. You were just pung us. Shinji didn't reply again. She probably hadn't expected that the people who had once been utterly obedient to her would be the first to rush up and bite her back after everything blew up. After all, these people were no different from Shinji in essence, selfish, cowardly, and driven by self-interest and avoidance of harm. It was just that Shinji was the one holding the knife, while they were the ones being used as pawns. Now that the knife was broken and the gun had gone silent, everyone would have to pay the price for their choices. I watched the messages in the group chat scroll by one after another, each one more desperate than the last, each one more furious than the last. Some said they would sue Gu Yenbai for fraud, some said they would go sit in at the education bureau, some said they would repeat the year, but that would mean waiting another year, and their families might not be able to afford it. Someone also thought of me, where is Lin Jixia? Didn't she go take the exam? What score did she get? Someone mentioned me and asked about my score. I replied with a number. The group fell silent for a long time. Top 10 in the province. Tsinghua, she's going to Tsinghua. No, we all skipped the exam, and she went to take it by herself, and in the end she got into Tsinghua. What the hell, this? What does that even count as? Are we making way for her? These people are really good at adding drama to themselves. Me making way for you? Did I force you to skip the exam? Did I tell you to put up a banner at the entrance to the exam hall? Did I make you sign some damn pledge or what? I sent back a message. I am a student who is taking the college entrance exam normally. My score was earned through my own efforts. Your decision to skip the exam has nothing to do with me. Then I turned off group notifications. I didn't want to look anymore. No need to keep watching. What happens next won't require me to do anything. They'll tear each other apart on their own. As for me, all I need to do is wait quietly for Tsinghua's admission letter. More than 20 days was enough for a carefully woven lie to collapse completely. I didn't see the screenshots of Shinji and Gu Yenbai tearing into each other in the group chat with my own eyes, but I heard about them. According to an old classmate who was still in the group, the scene was like the finale of a soap opera. After Gu Yenbai left the group, Shinji became the target of everyone's anger. At first, she tried to play dead, sending a long string of innocent-looking emojis and saying, I didn't know it would turn out like this either, and I was fooled too. But soon, someone posted the chat records. It was a conversation from when Shinji had previously messaged some classmates privately. It's okay if you don't sign it, but I really need your support. If you don't sign it, I'll feel like you don't see me as a friend. Yenbai said his dad has already made arrangements, so there's definitely no problem with the makeup exam. If you don't believe it, then there's nothing I can do. These words alone may not seem like much, but together, they are blatant moral blackmail, even more outrageous. Someone dug up Shinji's remarks from the day before. She skipped the exam at a small gathering. Shinji personally said, actually, I don't want to take the college entrance exam at all. My grades are so bad that even if I took it, I'd just embarrass myself. But if it's framed as protesting the teacher's unfairness, that's different. People will say we've got backbone, not that we're avoiding the exam. This recording was captured on tape. The recording spread wildly through the group chat. Shinji's persona completely collapsed at this moment. The so-called for dignity and for resistance against injustice were nothing more than a poor student finding a respectable excuse for her own avoidance, and Gu Yenbai was nothing more than a simp cleaning up after a selfish woman. Neither of them was any good, but the real blow was yet to come. The Education Bureau's investigation results were in. Gu Yenbai's father, Director Gu, was dismissed from his position as deputy director for making inappropriate remarks and engaging in misconduct in the collective exam boycott incident, and was handed over to the Disciplinary Inspection Department for further investigation. In the subsequent notice, Director Gu was found to have other economic problems and was suspected of taking bribes. and the case was handed over to the judicial authorities for handling. Gu Yanbai's good dad was gone. He went from being a second-generation official to the son of a convicted official. When the news spread to the group chat, some people were gloating. Some were cheering, and others belatedly realized that relying on his father to solve the makeup exam issue had been a joke from the very beginning. But now, whatever is said is too late. The college entrance exam results have already been settled, and the university admissions process has already ended, not to mention makeup exams. Even the registration period for repeating a year has already passed. For this group of people, they can either wait until next year to repeat a year, or just say goodbye to their college dreams altogether. Some chose to repeat the year, but repeating a year is not something you can do just because you want to. The tuition for a repeat year runs into tens of thousands a year, and with living expenses and study materials included, it's a hefty burden for many families. Some people's families simply can't afford it, so they have no choice but to accept their fate and go out to work. Some people's grades were poor to begin with, and even after repeating a year, they still wouldn't get into a good school. After weighing the options, they gave up as well. Some parents were so furious that they kicked their children straight out of the house, saying, "You've got backbone, haven't you? Go earn money with that backbone of yours." As for Shinji, her ending was even more miserable than I had expected. She didn't retake the exam, not because she didn't want to, but because she had no money. Everyone knew that Shinji's family was in poor shape. Her father worked on construction sites, and her mother was a cashier at a supermarket. The two of them barely made enough between them to cover the bare essentials. Her supposedly class beauty elegance was all built up through frugality and a bit of scheming. After the college entrance exam ended, her mother found out that she had skipped the exam and was so furious that she was hospitalized. Her father didn't hit her, but he never spoke to her again either. The atmosphere at home was as cold as an ice cellar. A week later, her mother was discharged from the hospital. After discussing it with her father for a long time, they finally told her that the family couldn't afford the money for her to repeat a year. "Do as you see fit, anyway, we can't control you anymore." Shinji cried in her room for an entire day, but so what? Tears solved nothing. In August, Shinji went to the south and got a job in an electronics factory, working on the assembly line as a laborer, 12 hours a day, rotating in 2 shifts, living in a communal dormitory with 10 people. Her once smooth long hair was stuffed into a dust cap. Her carefully maintained hands began to develop calluses, and her angelic face meant nothing on the assembly line. Someone posted photos of her in the factory to the group chat. She was wearing blue work overalls and a mask, with deep dark circles under her eyes. It was clear that she had lost a lot of weight and looked much more haggard. The reactions in the group were very interesting. Some people were gloating in the comments, "Isn't this our class beauty? How did she end up like this? I remember she used to say she wanted to be a model in the future. How did she end up working in an electronics factory? TSK TSK TSK, is this the price of justice?" Some people also made snide remarks. Sigh, actually, she's pretty pitiful too. What's there to pity? If she's pitiful, who pities us? We were fooled by her and didn't even get to go to college. Exactly, she brought it on herself. No one spoke up for her, not a single one. The former favorite of the group, class beauty, and goddess Shinji, now has no one in this chat group willing to speak up for her. Those who once rushed to like her posts, leave comments, and curry favor with her are now all busy trying to distance themselves from her. This is human nature, of course. Shinji is no good person, but these people aren't much better either. They are Shinji's accomplices, and also her mirror image, selfish, hypocritical, and driven by self-interest and the avoidance of harm. It's just that Shinji's methods were more clever, while they were even stupider. Now that the fools have come to their senses, they've started cursing the even worse one. But what happens after the cursing is over? After all that cursing, wasn't life still the same? Wasn't their lives still ruined all the same? Late July, on an ordinary afternoon, the sun was so blazing it felt like it was going to melt the entire city. I was watering the flowers on the balcony when I heard someone downstairs calling my name. Lin Jixia, your package." I leaned out and saw the postal delivery guy holding up a large red envelope and waving at me hard. EMS from Tsinghua University." My hands were trembling slightly, but I forced myself to stay calm as I went downstairs. When the delivery guy handed me the package, he even took a second look, then his eyes widened all at once. "Tsinghua University? You got into Tsinghua University? Oh my god, incredible, incredible, incredible." The delivery guy gave me a thumbs up, his smile even brighter than mine. it's been years since anyone from our neighborhood got into Tsinghua or Peking University. You've brought honor to all of us." I was a little embarrassed by all his praise. After signing my name, I took the red envelope. On the bright red cover, the gold-stamped words, "Tsinghua University Admission Letter," shone brilliantly in the sunlight. I held it in my hands as if I were holding a glass bottle filled with stars. My hands were shaking, my heart was trembling too. In my previous life, I had also received an admission letter, but it wasn't this one. That one was good too, from a top university, but it didn't make me as excited as this one did, because it was different. I had traded my life for it. Yes, I was reborn. I sat for the exam with my memories and got a better score. But if I hadn't gone through all those experiences in my previous life, I wouldn't have had so much awareness, and I wouldn't have had such strong motivation. In my past life, I drowned in a reservoir, dying suffocated, dying miserably, dying without ever understanding why. In this life, I'm going to live higher than anyone, and shine brighter than anyone. I took the admission notice upstairs, and my mom was knitting in the living room. When she saw the red envelope in my hand, she froze for a moment. The knitting needle in her hand fell to the floor, making a crisp, clear sound. "This is, Mom, I got into Tsinghua." My mother froze. 3 seconds later, she burst into tears with a wah. It wasn't a quiet sob, but a full-on wail. She rushed over and hugged me, burying her face in my shoulder, crying like a child. I was held in her arms, and the admission letter in my hand was squeezed out of shape, but I didn't want to break free. "Mom, stop crying. Mom is just happy. Mom is just too happy." Her voice was muffled, wet, mixed with tears and snot. Not pleasant at all, but it was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. My dad came back from outside and saw the scene. At first, he was terribly nervous, thinking something had happened. When he saw the words on the red envelope, the tall man stood in the doorway, frozen for a full half-minute, and then his eyes turned red. "Daughter, Dad didn't raise you for nothing." After saying that, he turned and went into the kitchen, but I saw him secretly wipe his eyes with his sleeve. That night, my dad went out and bought a box of fireworks, and set them off downstairs for 10 minutes. The neighbors were driven crazy by the noise. Someone stuck their head out and shouted, "Why are you setting off fireworks in the middle of the night? Are you sick in the head?" My dad yelled at the top of his lungs. My daughter got into Tsinghua University. The cursing stopped at once, replaced by silence, then scattered applause, and then a stranger's voice drifted over from far away. "Congratulations, congratulations. We're happy for you too." My dad was so delighted he looked like a fool and set off another crate. I looked at the fireworks bursting outside the window, their multicolored lights reflected on the glass, like a grand performance staged just for me. Then I took out my phone and opened the class group chat. The group chat had fallen silent for a long time. Ever since the scores came out, everyone had been listless. I tossed the photo of my Tsinghua admission letter into the group chat, a white envelope, a red school emblem, and gold-embossed lettering. The caption was just one word, "Here." There was silence for about 10 seconds, then it blew up. "Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, Tsinghua, Lin Jixia, you got into Tsinghua. Oh my god, so the one in the top 10 in the province is her. Lin Jixia, you're amazing." Hidden in the envious tone was a hint of sourness. Sure enough, before long someone started speaking sarcastically. "Some people are just lucky. If we hadn't skipped the exam, would she have been able to pick up such a huge bargain?" Exactly. The top 10 spots in the province are fixed, with us, her competitors, out of the way. Of course it's easier for her to get in. Sigh, we're just making clothes for someone else. Looking at these comments, I almost laughed out loud. Picking up the leftovers, competitors, making clothes for someone else. Are your grades really that important? The highest scoring one among you probably only gets a little over 400 on the mock exams, right? With that score, you can't even reach the first tier. University cutoff. Do you have some misunderstanding about the term competitor? Your existence can't affect anyone's ranking at all. The only contribution you've made is reducing the statewide applicant pool by a few dozen this year. That's all, but I don't plan to explain. Arguing with these people would only lower my worth. I merely posted the photo, and my goal had already been achieved. To let them see that while everyone was paying the price for their own choices, one person not only remained unaffected but was instead going farther and higher. This contrast was more cutting than any mocking remark. Sure enough, Shenji surfaced. She sent a message from the factory dormitory. "Jixia, congratulations." 3 words, followed by a smiling emoji. Then she added, "I'm really happy for you. You've always worked very hard, and this is what you deserve." this passage looks incredibly sincere, but I can tell that every word is dripping with blood. You've always worked so hard, the subtext is. I didn't work hard, so I deserve it. You deserve it, the subtext is. I don't deserve it. Shinji's performance had never stopped. Even when she was exhausted to the point of half dead on the production line, she still had to maintain the personas of being magnanimous, gentle, and sincere. Here, she was afraid others would think she was jealous of me. She was afraid others would think she was petty. She was afraid her image would completely collapse, but what she didn't know was that, in everyone's eyes, her image had already completely collapsed. From the moment the recording was exposed, she was no longer the so-called class beauty, or goddess. She is nothing but a polished egoist, a PUA expert who manipulates others with tears and schemes. Now that she's sending messages like this, sincere blessing, all it does is make people feel sick. Sure enough, someone replied to her, Shinji, stop pretending. If you were really happy for her, you wouldn't have pulled that skip the exam stunt. Shinji immediately replied, I really just didn't want the teacher to look down on us. I wasn't targeting anyone. Come on, you don't want the teacher to look down on you, so you dragged the whole class down with you. That's selfish. I really didn't. Alright, enough, stop acting, drama queen. Shinji didn't reply again. I didn't know whether she was truly speechless, or crying on the other end of the screen, but either way, I didn't care, none of my business. But the show wasn't over yet. Just when I thought everything was about to come to an end, a bombshell suddenly dropped in the group. Gu Yenbai's friend, or more accurately, his former friend, posted a screenshot of a chat log. It was a private chat between Gu Yenbai and another classmate, dated 3 days before the college entrance exam. In that private chat, Gu Yenbai said, actually, I'm not sure whether there's a makeup exam either. My dad said that, in principle, there are no makeup exams for the college entrance exam, but I think you can't be too absolute about this. Otherwise no one will play with me. Oh my god, there was so much information in that one sentence. Actually, I'm not sure whether there's a makeup exam either. You don't even know, and yet you dared to guarantee it. My dad said that, in principle, there is no makeup exam for the college entrance examination. Even his own dad said there wasn't one, and he still wanted to package it as if there was. Otherwise no one would play with me, so he knew all along that he was lying. As soon as this exchange was posted, the entire group exploded. Gu Yenbai, you knew there was no makeup exam and you still lied to us. You did that on purpose, didn't you? You just want us to play along with Shinji, right? You're willing to use all of us as tools just to win her favor. Gu Yenbai had already left the group, but these messages were forwarded to his DMs. It was said that his phone was blown up with calls and messages, and in the end he had no choice but to turn it off. But since he dared to do it, he should dare to take responsibility. The news spread throughout the entire grade within an hour, and even reached the parents' group chat. Some parents called the police directly. This was no joke. A group of senior high school students were incited to skip the exam, and the impact would affect the rest of their lives. After the police intervened and investigated, they summoned several of the main participants. Gu Yenbai was placed under administrative detention for inciting others to give up the national examination, with serious circumstances, and because his father's matter was still in the spotlight, Shinji was given a warning for actively participating in and inducing others to skip the exam. Both of their life records ended up with this mark, one administrative detention, one warning. Later, someone told me that when Gu Yenbai was taken away, his mother cried heartbrokenly in the neighborhood. He's only 18, he's still a child. When I heard that, I almost burst out laughing. 18 years old, and still a child. Then the person they ruined by keeping from college wasn't also a child. Then wasn't I, the one they pushed into the water and drowned, also a child? Oh, I forgot. In their standards, only their own people are people. Everyone else is just a stepping stone. In September, I stood in front of the gate of Tsinghua University, dragging my suitcase. The second gate, gray-white stone bricks, an old-fashioned arched gateway, with the 3 characters Tsinghua Garden engraved above it. Sunlight filtered through the branches and leaves of the plane trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. I take a deep breath. This is true. I really am standing here. I didn't die in that icy reservoir. I didn't sink to the bottom of that muddy river, and I wasn't hastily buried at the age of 18. I am alive, standing here, standing before the gate of the best university in China. The phone vibrated a few times. It was a message from the WeChat group. I hadn't left the group, not to watch the drama, but to remind myself never to forget what those people looked like. Is anyone there? something happened to Shinji. I opened the message and slowly scrolled down. Shinji couldn't keep going at the electronics factory for even 2 months. It wasn't that the factory fired her, she couldn't stand it herself. The work on the assembly line was boring, repetitive, and exhausting. Standing 12 hours a day felt like being in prison. Her delicate, fair hands began to blister and callous, and the dirt under her nails could never be washed clean. She started making mistakes. On one batch of phone screens, the film was applied crookedly, causing the entire batch of products to be scrapped. The team leader cursed at her in front of everyone in the workshop. "What are you using your eyes for? You can't even apply a screen protector properly. What else can you do?" Shinji cried. She thought the team leader would, like her classmates before, feel sorry for her, comfort her, and speak up for her, but the team leader only said coldly, "What are you crying for? Can tears be eaten? Get back to work, and don't block the people behind you." This was society, not school. No one bought her act, no one thought she looked beautiful when she cried, no one would hand her tissues, pat her on the shoulder, and say, "It's okay, you've already tried your best," when she was in tears. All anyone would think was, "This new girl is such a pain." Shinji was unconvinced, and went to the supervisor to file a complaint, saying the team leader was managing the team harshly and had a terrible attitude. The supervisor glanced at her and asked, "How long have you been here?" 2 months. "Your probation period isn't even over yet, and you're already complaining about the team leader." Shinji was stunned. 3 days later, she was fired. The reason was, not adapting to the work environment. After leaving the electronics factory, Shinji cried in her rented room for a whole day. She sent messages to her former classmates, wanting someone to confide in. "I'm really so sad. Why is everyone targeting me?" No one replied. She sent another, "I didn't do it on purpose, I just wanted to do my job well." Still no one replied. She was unwilling to give up and sent a third message, "I really miss you all. I really want to go back to high school." Finally, someone replied. It was the girl who had been closest to her back then, named Zhao Xiaomian. Zhao Xiaomian replied, "Shinji, can you stop pretending?" "Shinji, what do you mean?" "Zhao Xiaomian, you look exactly like you did back then when you were crying in the classroom. So pitiful. After you finished crying, someone would stand up for you, someone would think of a way for you, someone would take the blame for you. But Shinji, this isn't school anymore. There's no fool like Gu Yanbai here for you to use as a pawn. Wake up." Then Zhao Xiaomian deleted Shinji. Shinji stared at her phone screen, looking at the words, "The other party is no longer your friend," and froze for a long time. She couldn't understand why a friend who had once been so obedient to her would suddenly become so heartless. There were many other things she couldn't understand. She couldn't understand that those people were kind to her because she was useful to them. Her good looks could satisfy their vanity, and her status as the class beauty could make them feel close to a goddess. Once she lost her value, who would still even glance at her? Shinji lay in her rented room for 3 days, not eating or drinking, until she had become gaunt beyond recognition. On the 4th day, her mother called and said that the family really couldn't make ends meet anymore, and asked her to send some money home. Shinji opened her mouth, wanting to say, "I've been fired," but she didn't say it out loud, because she knew it would be useless. Even if she did, her mother would only say, "Then what are we supposed to do? Your dad's back is acting up again, and he can't work. The family is waiting for money." After hanging up, Shinji looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was dry and yellowish, her face sallow, with dark circles under her eyes and chapped lips. Was this still the class beauty admired by every boy in the school? Was this still the girl who could stand at the podium, cry a little, and make the whole class skip the exam with her? She suddenly found it absurd. It was very sad. She also very much wanted to die, but she didn't have the courage to die, so she could only keep on living. A month later, she went to work at a milk tea shop, earning 3,000 yuan a month, with meals included but no accommodation. She rented a partitioned room, 10 square meters in size, with no windows and barely enough space to turn around. Next door lived a man in his 30s, who stayed up gaming until 3 in the morning every night, with the clatter of his keyboard ringing incessantly. Below was a snack street, and the smell of cooking oil seeped in through the cracks in the window, leaving her clothes permanently smelling of barbecue. One night, Shinji lay in bed and suddenly thought of me. She wondered what Lin Jixia was doing now, taking a walk in Qinghua Garden, reading in the library, discussing problems with a group of equally outstanding people. She didn't know, but she knew it had to be better than her, 10,000 times better. Gu Yanbai's ending was even more tragic than Shinji's. It's not that his life was especially poor, rather, the sense of falling from his pedestal was just too great. Gu Yanbai had been the kind of other people's child since he was young. His father was a leader, his mother was a civil servant, they lived in a school district apartment, and they drove an Audi A6 in middle school. He was the class monitor, the teacher's favorite, and the one his classmates tried to curry favor with. He was used to being held in high esteem. He was used to having people greet him with, "Hello, class monitor," wherever he went. He was used to using, "my dad says," to get through every kind of backdoor. He had even gotten used to using, "my dad," to chase girls, telling Shinji that his father was the deputy director of the education bureau, hinting that she'd have a bright future if she stayed with him, and of course, Shinji took the bait. It wasn't because she liked him, but because she thought he was useful from the very beginning. The two of them had been using each other. Gu Yanbai used Shinji's class beauty aura to enhance his own status. Class monitor with class beauty, a perfect match made in heaven. Shinji used Gu Yanbai's resources and connections to maintain her dignity. Backed by someone, she dared to act domineeringly in class. Now, both sides ended up badly hurt. After Director Gu was investigated, it was found that the amount of bribery exceeded 2 million, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. When the news reached the group chat, everyone was shocked. It wasn't that they were shocked by his bribery, but by the amount, 2 million. He ruined his own son's life for just those 2 million. Because of the shock, Gu Yanbai's mother suffered a mental breakdown and was sent to a sanatorium. The Gu family's house was sealed off, the car was auctioned off, and the bank deposits were frozen. In one night, Gu Yanbai went from a wealthy second-generation heir to a debt-ridden second-generation, the kind burdened with crushing debt. After he was released from administrative detention, he had nowhere to go and could only stay at a relative's home. At first, the relatives were willing to take him in, but later they found that this kid was lazy, idle, and always aiming too high while being incapable of doing anything, so they started to despise him. "Your dad's already been locked up, so why are you still putting on airs like some young master? If you could actually do some work, I wouldn't mind adding one more pair of chopsticks, but with your attitude, I can't afford to support you. Go find a job, stop staying at home." Gu Yanbai went to look for a job. After all, he had graduated from high school, though he hadn't taken the Gaokao, so finding some kind of manual labor shouldn't be too hard. But he looked down on manual labor. He thought of himself as a class monitor and a second-generation official, so how could he go serve dishes or carry bricks? He wanted an office job, but office jobs required at least a junior college diploma, which he didn't have. He hadn't taken the college entrance examination, and he barely managed to get even a high school diploma. Because of the skipped exam incident, the school almost didn't issue him one. He submitted more than 30 resumes, but not a single company wanted him. In the end, Gu Yanbai could only, through introductions from relatives, go to a construction site to carry bricks. Yes, carry bricks, literally carrying bricks. Gu Yanbai, once the class monitor, once the young master, is now carrying bricks at a construction site. He worked from 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening every day, earning 120 yuan a day, with lunch included. His white dress shirt had long since been thrown away, and no one knew where it had gone. The gold school badge pinned to his uniform had long since been lost, along with his father's official cap. What he was wearing now was a t-shirt bought from the wholesale market for 15 yuan each, dull gray and covered in cement and dust. Someone took a photo of him and posted it in the group chat. In the photo, Gu Yanbai was tanned dark, much thinner than before, with a scruffy beard and a dazed look in his eyes. He was squatting in a corner of the construction site eating, holding a stainless steel lunch box in his hands, which contained stewed cabbage with vermicelli. He ate hurriedly, as if afraid someone would snatch it away. Someone in the group commented, "Isn't this our class monitor? How did he end up like this?" Tisk, TSK. TSK, if he had honestly gone to take the exam back then, he wouldn't have fallen into this state. He deserves it. Who told him to trick us? Someone also said something fair. Actually, he was harmed by Shinji too. That sentence was immediately drowned out, because in this group, no one cared about fairness, they only cared about venting their anger and dissatisfaction. Gu Yanbai didn't reply in the group. He had probably deleted the group long ago and blacklisted everyone's contact information. He didn't want to face those people. He didn't want to face the ones who had once fawned over him because, "My dad is the bureau chief," and then abandoned him after his father was taken down. He didn't want to face those people who had once stood with him outside the exam hall holding a banner, but were now calling him a liar behind his back. But he had no way to escape it. Every day, he was carrying bricks at the construction site, surrounded by strangers. no one knew him. And no one knew who he had once been. This was the only moment he could catch his breath, but by night, when I returned to that 10-square-meter rental room and lay down on the hard wooden bed, closing my eyes, my mind was full of the past, the classroom, my classmates, Shinji, the commitment letter to skip the exam, the reporters at the entrance to the exam hall, the day his father was taken away. Then there was one sentence, looping over and over, "Are you absolutely sure your dad can handle it?" Not sure. He had been uncertain from the very beginning. He just wanted to please Shinji. He just wanted to show off in front of Shinji. He just wanted to maintain the image in class that the class monitor can handle anything. He thought he was lucky, and maybe he really could get away with it. He didn't expect things to blow up this badly. Even more unexpected was that his dad would be investigated. What I least expected was that his father really did have financial problems. Everything, all of it, was like a row of dominoes. Once he toppled the first tile, the rest followed beyond his control. As for the other classmates, although their fates were not as miserable as Shinji's and Gu Yenbai's, they were hardly any better. Of the more than 30 students in the class who had given up the college entrance exam, 21 chose to repeat the year. The days of repeating the year were 10 times harder than senior year of high school, not because the academic pressure was great, but because the psychological pressure was immense. In the retake class, they were the odd ones out. Other repeat students have at least taken the college entrance exam and know where they fell short. What about them? They didn't even take the college entrance exam. When others ask, "How many points did you score last year?" they can only stammer and change the subject. The teachers in the repeat class also knew their background. Once, the homeroom teacher said at a class meeting without naming anyone, "I know that some students skipped the exam last year. I won't judge your choice, but I hope this year you can learn your lesson and not make the same mistake again." These words sounded very official, but to those 21 people, every sentence felt like a knife. What was even worse was that their parents mocked them with cold sarcasm every day. "I told you long ago not to make a scene, but you just wouldn't listen. Now look at this. You've wasted an extra year and spent tens of thousands more. Was it worth it? Your classmate XXX got into a top university, and you didn't even take the college entrance exam. Where do you expect me to put my old face? If you still can't get in this year, then don't come back." Every day of repeating the year was agony. Some people couldn't take it anymore and started skipping class, going online, and playing games, venting all their pressure in the virtual world. Some people scored just over 300 points on the first mock exam of their repeat year and broke down crying, saying, "I'm just a loser." There were also those who gritted their teeth and held on, studying from 6 in the morning until 11 at night every day, desperately grinding through practice questions. But how much can one extra year of repeating really improve things? For an ordinary person, improving by 50 or 60 points is already pretty good. Going from a vocational college to a third-tier university, or from a third-tier university to a second-tier one, hoping to jump from just over 300 points to the first-tier cutoff, dream on. Those who chose not to retake the exam either went out to work or stayed unemployed at home. Those who went to work ended up in all kinds of different places. Some people worked as waiters in restaurants, some as cashiers in supermarkets, some as sorters at courier companies, and some went to factory assembly lines. Not a single person was doing the job they wanted to do. Not a single person was getting a salary that satisfied them. There was a girl named Li Xiaowei, with above-average grades. If she had performed normally, she could have gotten into a second-tier undergraduate university. She followed Shinji and skipped the exam. Repeat a year. Her family couldn't come up with the money. Work. She was unwilling. In the end, she got married to a man from the neighboring village who was 8 years older than her. The bride price was 200,000 yuan, all of which went to her younger brother's schooling. On the wedding day, she stood in the courtyard expressionlessly, wearing a rented wedding dress. Someone took a photo of her and posted it in the group chat. Some said, "Congratulations, congratulations." Some said that the most important thing in life isn't love but money, and some said, "Your husband looks pretty honest." Li Xiaowei didn't reply to any of them. Later, someone asked her privately, "Are you doing okay?" She replied, "SOSO." Just 2 words, but beneath those 2 words, how much unwillingness and helplessness were hidden, only she knew. There was also one person named Wang Hao. He was my desk mate in class. He was one of the few people who still had a pretty good relationship with me. In my previous life, he did not sign the pledge to give up the exam. He took my advice and sat for the college entrance examination, got into a second-tier university, and lived an ordinary, uneventful life. But in this life, everything changed, because he had a crush on Shinji. Yes, Wang Hao had a crush on Shinji. He never said it, But I knew, the way he looked at Shinji was different, with a kind of cautious, reverent light, as if he were looking at a goddess. In this lifetime, because Shinji had secretly sought him out before giving up the exam, crying her heart out as she said, "Brother How, you'll stand by me, right?" He fell for it. He signed the agreement to forego the exam. He did not take the college entrance examination. Just like that, his life was ruined by the gentle, quiet classmate I remembered. After the results came out, Wang Hao became a completely different person. He started drinking, and whenever he got drunk, he would curse Shinji. In the group chat, "You bitch, you ruined me, you ruined my life. I must have been blind to have ever liked you back then. You get out here, you come out here." Shinji did not reply. No one else in the group replied either. They probably thought Wang Hao had gone crazy. Maybe he really had gone mad. Later, I heard from someone that Wang Hao had gone to another city and never came back, nor did he contact anyone. I don't know where he is now, what he's doing, or whether he's doing well, but I know for sure that he must not be doing well, because an 18-year-old boy with a decent future ahead of him had been tricked by a girl's tears into giving up the college entrance exam, and not everyone could bear a blow like that. Epilogue. One day, the group chat, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly came alive. Someone was organizing an accountability campaign. "We're going to sue Shinji and Gu Yanbai. They're the ones who caused us to have no school to attend." "That's right, make them compensate us for our losses. I'm already looking for a lawyer. Anyone want to join me? The college entrance exam is coming soon again. I hope their story can help those who come after. Stay determined. No one is worth risking your future for." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.